Glen.
Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I am here with Glenn Willis and Tyler Jones after the Hawks won a second straight game going into New York and beating up on a Knicks team that didn't have any of their bigs. Um, Glenn, what'd you see in this one?
You watch this team play minus Trey, and and you can go on X wherever and kind of see all the back and forth and different thoughts people have about it. That's fine, people to voice what they think. But in this form, they just have a lot more defensive stability, like a lot more defensive stability, and that sets them up for success. Creating points off turnovers, rebound and push, and those sorts of things, and it's easier to play Luke more when playing Luke and Trey together is like death on defense, and so no, I don't think anybody's sitting here wishing for Trey like to miss a whole bunch more time or anything like that. Nobody's rooting for that. I hope, but it is easier to play Luke more when Quinn doesn't have to figure out how to not have him on the floor at the same time as Trey. And so, but yeah, so the rotation, the lineups are more balanced. Keaton's out of the rotation. He played garbage time against Minnesota last couple minutes there, but they're just have more kind of balance on both ends of the court in this form, and I think that's what's setting them up to have more success.
You feel the same way, Tyler?
Yeah, but I think the biggest, I mean, like KP just being back, the rim protection is just so obvious. Like the thing that he changed is that basketball players don't even attempt layups when he's in the game. And so like that gives the Hawks have a real center for 48 minutes instead of what they were doing before, when it was just literally just Onyeka having to uplift some of the worst defensive lineups in the NBA. Uh, you got that, but then also like kind of like what Glenn says, like the Hawks are just a big like it comes down to this, like the Hawks are just bigger when Trey's not playing. They're just bigger across the board, and you see how much like more impactful Dyson is able to be offensively in particular also when he's on the ball more. I mean, that's kind of just the deal. Like, so I mean I want to believe in Trey Young. Like I've gone on a couple podcasts talking about how I think this might be Trey's last year or whatever, but there is a pathway for success for him, but that pathway probably involves Quinn Snyder not playing Luke Kennard at all, if that makes sense. Uh, just because, like, flat out, you can't afford, like, this Hawks team can't really afford to have Trey and Luke playing. It doesn't even necessarily mean Trey and Luke have to even not be playing together. They could be playing separately. I don't think the Hawks can afford to not have their defensive aces out there for extended stretches. I think like a big reason why the Hawks won this game against the Knicks was a lot of like uh defensive connectivity in large part because they were bigger team. Zach Zach was taking away a lot of actions on defense. Like he played another fabulous defensive game,
Yeah,
particularly off ball,
yeah.
and like him like taking away the roll man for like and like getting these Hawks into proper rotations. Like these are stuff that are just a little bit like it's just a lot harder when it's like, okay, we got to pre-switch, we gotta funnel Trey's man this way, that way. Like to me, when Trey's not playing defensively, the Hawks just have to think less on defense. It's more of like, all right, I know what my principles are. Boom, boom, boom. We're good to go. When it's Trey, it's like, all right, we got to pre-switch. We got to take Trey out of certain actions. We have to at all times be aware of where Trey is on the floor defensively. So and this is a young basketball team. And so like you see the mental mistakes a lot more, particularly when Trey is playing, than what you're seeing right now. I like it's not all Trey, but I think it's less about him and more about where the development curve of the younger players on this team are right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like there are a bunch of players on this team, including, let's say, like Onyeka Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, and if we're talking about both having Trey out of the mix and Kristaps in it, even somebody like Asa Newell, like once you get Onyeka, Asa, Jalen into these roles where they don't have to fix somebody else's defensive mistakes,
Yep,
then they become better defenders.
for sure.
Jalen played a very good defensive game in
He
this
did.
one,
Yep.
but it's like it's just so much more manageable for him when he doesn't have to constantly be in rotation, constantly make these rapid fire decisions, trying to figure out, who else on his team is rotating to which spots. Like it's just a lot easier for him to be a good defender when he's not trying to cover for Trey. So I'm very much with Tyler in the fact that like uh, Trey makes most sense on this team in the Luke Kennard role, playing with Kristaps as much as possible. And it's not just Trey, like because the other part of it is, let's say you've got Trey, Dyson, and Jalen in the game at the same time. Well, it's a little too easy for teams to defend things that involve Trey and Jalen that you don't get the offensive juice of having them both out there when they're out there with Dyson, and it's too easy to cheat off of Dyson. So it's like it's not just all on Trey, but it's like you factor in all the components here, and it's harder to work him into the mix, but I do think it's possible if you're maximizing his minutes with bench players.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
I think we can be intellectually honest and say, Trey obviously is one of the 3 or 4 best passers in the whole league. Like that's without question, right? Great creator, great creating shots for teammates, all that sort of stuff. But on defense, he creates stress and strain that everybody feels, on every single possession. And that's a real thing, you know. And so you end up playing smaller. You end up like putting more mental workload on the other 4 players on the floor to kind of keep Trey clean, keep him out of trouble, try to keep him out of ball screens, all that sort of stuff they try to do. And that stuff's very distracting. That stuff is very distracting for the other 4 defenders on the floor. Now, the coaching staff should be able to kind of help them work through that and figure that out, you'd think, but that's not ever going to be not a thing, in this current kind of roster configurations that they have. And so that's just it, but it's interesting. Like you just saw like the last 2 games, how much more defensive stability they just had so much more defensive stability. You can see they're less stress, less stress. I mean, I think I heard Quinn say scream yell, good Jalen, good Jalen, like 7 or 8 times in this game, right? I think he was like, that was good, that was good, that was good, trying to reinforce, Jalen tracking the back cutter, sliding to the right help spot, shading help, just taking a driving lane away, helping, coming across in the paint and helping someone, get pushed away from going middle. Just all those little tendencies that he saw was just much much better for me. But I mean, I love Trey. He's fun. It's fun to watch him play basketball, especially on the offensive end of the court for sure. But there is real stress and strain that comes from trying to kind of have to cover for him. That is really distracting, and that shows up, consistently.
I also feel like Trey can be better on defense. Like I don't know that this is like a finished product. Like
Hmm.
I still think he's finding his way. I don't know if it's a physical thing, but I just think that he's gotten a little too invested in trying to draw offensive fouls. Like he's just got to stay upright more. It can't be all just trying to draw offensive fouls. And I think maybe he's a little bit tentative trying to get over screens when the screen involves the right side of his body, the one that got hurt.
Yep.
Like if that's the side that's going to be contact, I think he's tentative about that still probably. So, I think there's room for him to get better on defense, but it's never going to be uh, something that they don't have to worry about when he's out there, obviously.
Yep, for sure.
What do you think about Zaccharie Risacher getting heated when he went to the bench in the fourth quarter?
I don't
I
have a
mean, I
problem
thought it
with
was great to see. You know,
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I mean, it's just like it's you don't win any rewards for being nice, right? And like I thought Zach played a great game on both ends, and he got he lost his minutes ultimately because they couldn't make open shots when he was in the game in the start that fourth quarter. And like it wasn't really his fault though. Again, he did have a possession where he should have just shot the ball instead of whatever he did, where he gave the ball up to KP with like less than 3 seconds to go. When he had an opportunity to score, he needs to be more. Again, he needs to be more aggressive overall. But like he played well. Again, he played great defense, and he probably felt like it was unfair benching, and I would agree with him. So I'm happy that he, whatever he said to the coach, like make it understood that hey, I'm not happy with sitting in these fourth quarters, particularly when I'm playing well. But at the same time, I thought, yeah, Quinn had to get more offense in the game. Like, this is the downside of not having Trey, where it's like, okay, I have to get the more offensive oriented players. He benched Dyson too a little bit, just to juice up the offense a little bit more in that fourth quarter, just to string some possessions along. But like I have no like to me, I really enjoyed that he showed some frustration there. I think that you know that matters. That shows like this ain't you're not a kid anymore when you're in the NBA. Like you're a professional athlete and like this is about your money. Like you know this is your job, and when you feel like you're not getting respected, and again, like I don't think it was his fault in a certain sense. In another sense, it is his fault in that he's just not as good a shooter as Vit Krejci or Luke Kennard. There's no shame in that,
Right.
but Quinn's got to do what he's got to do to win games. And so, like, I'm just of the opinion. I'm like, I just love to see that, considering how well he played on both ends tonight.
Yeah, and I think coaches sometimes respect you advocating for yourself, right? I think that that's a thing. I know for me in my own personal coaching background, which has never been, you know, NBA, never been professional, but what I always hoped for was someone to approach me and be like, "Hey, what do I need to do for you to trust me to play at the end of the game? You know, what am I not doing? What do you need to see that I'm not showing you, for you to be able to kind of trust me and to approach with curiosity and real interest in feedback, to value the feedback, be grateful for the feedback that you get, and try to go apply that feedback that you have. Those are the conversations that I always found to be most meaningful for me to have with, kids that were frustrated with that I wasn't playing them as much as they felt like they should. And now Zach's young. Does he have the skill to kind of approach his coach or whichever coach and just say, "Hey, I'm frustrated. I feel like I'm showing enough, but if there's something I'm not showing Quinn, what's the one or two things that I need to show him that I'm not showing him to be trusted at the end of the game?" And that's that. And sometimes that can really be a really important conversation to have with someone to get that feedback and to understand what is Quinn basing that decision on. And I think you're allowed to ask that question. I think you're completely allowed to ask that question.
Yeah, it still remains one of the weirdest things about this team, like sort of the way that they've deployed Zach at times. And I get that you want to push him to growth and you want him to fight to kind of earn those minutes. But I think there are times where this season, like it made no sense to pull him out. And some of the players that were in there in his place didn't quite make sense as replacements for him. So that has remained weird, and you get why over the course of a season Zach would get frustrated about it, and at the same time, like it was the right decision for this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's allowed to I think he's allowed to feel frustrated. I think he's allowed to voice his frustration. You want it to be constructive as it can be, but you also understand that like he's been sitting a lot in the fourth quarter this year, like a lot, a lot, a lot. I think I can't remember which team they played like I don't know 3 or 4 weeks ago. He closed the game and was really, really great closing the game. It was a home game. I can't remember who the opponent was. And I felt like, well, okay, well maybe Zach is kind of showing Quinn something here. Like his defensive, impact was there, and it was I remember a play where he sprinted to the rim and created a wide open three for Nikhil in transition, which was just he's a smart kid. I mean, he knows what he's doing out there. Um, and and it's like Tyler said, I thought he was good tonight. I thought he was really good tonight. But when the offense starts to break down, an NBA coach is going to turn to their two best shooters they have and put them on the floor and try to juice, put more shooting out there. And Veet and Luke are the two best 3-point shooters on this team. And when uh, Dyson can't break the paint, because the New York is kind of putting four bodies in the paint on him. Quinn is going to turn and juice shooting into the lineup. And Zach's just not that level of shooter yet. Appreciate his aggressiveness. I thought he, was aggressive with his shot tonight. I thought he rebounded better tonight. You know, he worked a little harder in that phase of the game as well. But I mean, an NBA coach, when you go four possessions in a row without making a shot, and your lead goes from 20 to 15 or 14 or whatever, like Quinn's gonna be like, V, Luke, I need you in the game. And like that 6-point swing Luke created with his two back-to-back threes he had was massive, absolutely massive, was huge. And I don't know if fans always recognize it, but V creates a ton of spacing. Like he creates a ton of, and Dyson can attack the paint way easier when V's on the floor, V and Luke are on the floor. Dyson can live in the paint, when that's going on. But that's what NBA coaches are going to do. Oh, our offense is hit a brick wall. I need to put shooters on the floor, and that's what Quinn did.
What would you make of how Kristaps played tonight, Tyler, in light of the fact that, if you just stare at the box score, it probably looks like he didn't have a particularly good game.
I mean, like I think he's playing the best defense that he has since coming to Atlanta. These last two games in particular, um, he's just such a massive body, and he's good at taking the shot away before it's even an option. Like he's a he's similar to Gobert in some ways in that regards when it comes to rim protection. So like it's just good to see it. One, it's good to see that he looks healthy, he play healthy. Hopefully he can stay relatively healthy the rest of the season because you know the all the lineup data, the metrics, everything is pretty undeniable. When Kristaps plays, this is a good Hawks team. That's kind of the reality of how this team is built right now. He gives this team real lineup versatility, real size that they haven't really had uh, in a long time in the Hawks. For the Hawks, so like they need him, uh, and hopefully he can stay. He can manage his, either him or the Hawks to figure something out with regard to this illness thing. But like defensively, he was great. I didn't mind that he wasn't making his shots on offense. Like not a not a big deal to me. Like he's still so respected as an offensive player that matters more than even if you make or miss shots. So and he's got a long track record, but it's just great these last two games to give the Hawks like an idea, like, hey, we are a good team. Like the Hawks dominated two good teams, like back to back games of dominating two good teams, one at home, one on the road. And a big reason was for that was the improved the better, much better defense from Jalen Johnson overall. Like I think Jalen's been fantastic defensively the last couple games. And also like the return of KP, where you're not at such a size deficit where you try and mow at center or ace at center and you're just getting destroyed, like just getting killed with physicality and size in ways that you can't really overcome with anything other than shooting. So it's good to see KP back. Hopefully he can string some more games here.
Yeah, I think the one thing that created a challenge for him is he played a long stretch in the third quarter when Onyeka was getting stitched up in the locker room, and I think it was a longer than what they normally would want to play him. They've been keeping it 4 to 5 minutes, get him out, get him back in 4 to 5, and I think that cycle I think works well for him. but I felt like he was in there for a good 8, 9 minutes while they were trying to get Onyeka to stop bleeding, in the locker room, get him back out there. But I mean, tip your hat to him. He stayed on the court, did the best he could, and and I agree that like he had a lot of impact defensively in this game tonight. It'd be interesting to see if he plays tomorrow. I guess we'll wake up in the morning or whatever and kind of see what the report looks like. But they need him. They definitely need him.
I think this game was a little bit easier for him defensively just because, the Knicks didn't have players like Towns and
Yeah.
things like that. Would have made it a lot more challenging for him. But, after the Minnesota game, Quinn Snyder said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but, you know, basically he said that Kristaps had to show high and get back. And, if we go back to before the extended absence, that was something that he was struggling with. So
Mhm.
the fact that he was doing that in the Minnesota game is really good.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. What are you expecting from Toronto? I know that the Hawks have had their hands full with Toronto, but it's like feels like almost a different season at this point.
Yeah, I mean it's good. I mean Toronto has as much size and length as any team in the league. They have a ton of it, and they deploy it defensively for sure. Um, I've never been the biggest fan of Scotty Barnes, but he's having a good season. He's having a good season, so it would be unfair to not say that. They don't really play. They don't really play a point guard really at all. So they play through they play through um, Brandon Ingram. They play through Scotty. Is a lot of the offense runs through those guys, and RJ is just like he's really learned how to impact the game defensively a ton. RJ Barrett. Pirtle's a good defense.
I think
So the
Pirtle's
thing for me
out.
is like, is Trey going to play tomorrow or not? I think that is a big factor here. They will put the a forward on him. If Trey plays, it'll be some 6'8" dude on Trey every single possession, and the Hawks will burn 12 seconds of the shot clock trying to get somebody smaller, smaller on him. Try to kind of force a switch or what have you. But that team's well coached defensively, especially. They're really well coached defensively, and they will turn you over and get out and get easy points in transition. I mean, what they did to the Hawks when they played earlier in the season was just the Hawks couldn't even like get a seam. Like they don't even give you a seam to attack. You can't get middle. You can't get a seam. And so it's gonna be interesting to see if what they do differently offensively, and that's going to be impacted by whether Trey plays or not.
Any thoughts on Toronto, Tyler?
Uh, we'll see. I think it depends on who's playing for both teams. I don't know what Pirtle status is. I don't know if
I'm
Porzingis is
pretty
going to
sure he's
play.
he's out because they said a few
Yeah,
days ago he's out for a week, will be reevaluated, something like that.
but I think the thing I want to see the most is Jalen continues to play at this level defensively because like this is the vision. If he wants to be one of the best players in the world, like he's got to play with this level of defensive intensity and focus more consistently throughout an NBA season. Like that this these stretch of games, these last two games is why it's frustrating when he backslides defensively for whatever reason because it's like you don't you're too talented to be rate like to just have been either a neutral or negative defender the way he has been this year. So hopefully he can turn it up for them against the Raptors. Um, if Trey's going to play, like again, the defense is just going to be something I want to see. I want to see more defensive focus and intensity from him. If he's going to play, like he's got to play harder on defense. So it's kind of black and white with me at this point with Trey Young. And like, I think especially without Pirtle, the Hawks match up pretty well physically, and it should be a good game. But I think a lot of this season it has basically come down to do the Hawks match up well physically with this opponent or not. If they have the matchup advantage, it's a comfortable victory. We saw that honestly with the Timberwolves whenever Gobert was out the game. It's easy money at the rim. Same with this Knicks team, no rim protection for most of the game. They tried Yabusele at center. The Hawks just destroyed the Knicks in the paint until they were like, all right, we got to throw Hawk Purdy out there and hope for the best. Uh, and it worked a little bit in the fourth quarter, getting offensive rebounds and stuff like that. But again, it just points to the fact that just how much more important physicality and size matters now in today's NBA. It's just a blueprint for the Hawks to keep in the back of their minds going forward when they're building their roster. It's really unfortunate N'Faly Dante got hurt because I think I think he would have been really good for the Hawks team. But he's out, and hopefully KP can stay healthy. I want to see this Hawks team with KP more often. Because I'm really intrigued with what they do on both sides of the floor when he's playing.
Right. So it's 2 games in Toronto for people who maybe haven't been keeping track of what the schedule looks like. Ostensibly, Porzingis isn't going to play tomorrow, and Toronto will be the more rested team. I think their most recent game, they started Scotty Barnes at center and brought Mamushvili off the bench. So it'll be interesting to see, how do the Hawks match up with that? Are they going to try to do the Asa Newell at center thing again and try to live with that? That seems like it might get dicey against certain Toronto lineups. And hopefully the Hawks will have Porzingis back for the second of those 2 games. That seems like it would be something that makes a difference. I think he would be something of a difference maker for the Hawks on defense against Toronto, the way that they play. They really kind of pack the paint with a lot of big bodies trying to get, Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram to the 10 to 15 foot range to get some of those shots. When you have a big like Porzingis, that's going to make that kind of thing easier on defense. And he was just good on the defensive glass tonight too. Just having that rebounder will make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and the way they match up defensively will depend on who plays as well. But coming out, I think when they played earlier in the year, coming out halftime, they moved Dyson onto Ingram and try to impact lineup that way, and then Nikhil was on quickly. I think Jalen drew Scotty Barnes. Which that's a for as much offensive workload as you ask Jalen to handle, that's a lot of defensive workload to ask him to handle too. So it's gonna be interesting to see which way they go. It's gonna be interesting to see if KP doesn't play. Do we see some more Mo Gay? I mean, I said on the kind of the Christmas Day Patreon thing I put out, I said Ace is way better on offense, Mo's way better on defense. And NBA coaches have to make trade-off decisions all the time, all the time. We might
He
get
makes
mad
the
at not
same
seeing
one
Mo
over
Gay.
and over though.
Yeah, I know, and we might all get frustrated not seeing Mo Gay play. He's really impactful on defense. But I mean, Asa is really responsible with the basketball and offense for a rookie. It's just kind of crazy how smart he is. He knows where to be, knows what to do. But like I said, NBA coaches have to make trade-off decisions all the time. Right? Do I need to swing offense? Do I need to swing defense? What do I need to do here? Where are we? Oh, we're good enough on offense. Maybe we need to get another good defender out there. Mo, let's get you 6 minutes this half or whatever it is. But that's gonna be interesting to see how they deal with that.
Yeah.
Because Toronto does they don't play through their guards offensively really at all. It all goes through Ingram and Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, if Pirtle's not there, I sort of suspect that Okongwu might be the one guarding Barnes.
Yeah,
So
could be. Hey, Okongwu was really good tonight defensively. I mean, he was just very aggressive and really digging for the ball and all that stuff. So I thought that was one of his best bits of games of the year tonight as well.
and he was up high and just not giving Brunson any angles to turn all night long. It's
Yeah,
like, go ahead and get back, Dyson. I got you. You take the time you need, and then I'm going to get out of here. And again, not having Towns made all the difference. They were not that scared about the roll man. That the Hawks were shifted and making sure that they had some help in the rim just in case. But Okongwu was free to be up high, and that just made all the difference for Dyson to
yeah,
not really have to worry and not have to foul. He could just take a safe approach angle, get himself back in the play, and then Okongwu would retreat, and it was just they contained it time after time after time, which was
Yep. Yeah,
really
Towns is a
effective.
completely different challenge. I
It's
mean,
completely
in the non-Jokic category, he's as he's the next guy as skilled as anybody. Really efficient, quick release on a three-point shot. Can get downhill, secure with the basketball. I mean, he creates so many issues for you that the Hawks didn't have to deal with tonight, and that was helpful.
I'm all in on Ray J. Dennis.
Yeah,
I am like he's what he did in on less than 24 hours notice. You know, he was in Atlanta less than 24 hours before he played that game the other night, and he looks like a point guard. Like what one of the things that the Skyhawks have struggled with all season long, and that's I have no idea how long Ray J. Dennis will be with the Skyhawks. Maybe they want him on the Hawks sooner rather than later. I don't know. They probably don't need him in the rotation or whatnot, but we'll see. But like one of the things that the Skyhawks have struggled with all season long is that when you get to that last 4 minutes of the game and defenses start switching, they've had no way to get an advantage. Like nobody can create, force the defenses into a rotation or get somebody to overdig. Like there's just been no way to create an edge or get a shot off. And like his footwork, his handle, his shooting, like he knows all the different shoulder feints and head feints and just things that get defenders off balance. And sure, he was really impressive. And like it just also like on offense, like it just did seem like he didn't even make any mistakes. Like playing
yeah,
with new players, playing in a new system, like it did not phase him at all. Like he was the best player in that game by like two levels. And 2 days before, the Skyhawks got absolutely browbeaten by the exact same team. And when he was there, they won by like 25 or 20 or something the next
yeah,
night or 2 nights
yeah.
later. So like he looks like a real point guard. He's not the biggest guy, but he's pretty feisty and definitely very quick on defense. After the game, his coach was like complimenting the job that he did defensively as well as on offense. But like offensively, he is a point guard, like just full stop.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he he knows how to attack a defense. He knows how to create leverage. He knows how to use what physicality he has to kind of, create leverage on his own defender and to kind of get an angle and collapse a D. He's good at all that stuff. I mean, he really does know how to do all that stuff. And that's another thing too. Like if you got him and Keaton on the rock, Keaton's, you know, a lot of defensive value, limited offensive value. It's a little bit like Asa and Mo, right? It's kind of the trade-off that's there. But no, from what I've seen him play too, so it's just been pretty high level processor, knows what he's doing, responsible with the ball, knows where he's trying to get, and kind of what he's trying to create, and I think he's a great addition to the organization.
Is there anything else you want to talk about here before the trip to Toronto?
The AD discourse, maybe.
The AD discourse. Yeah, like it seemed like the Hawks were making an effort to get Risacher's name uh, a little bit more respect, like that he was definitely not a throw in. Like felt like there was a concerted effort from the Hawk side to get it out there that hey, we don't want to put him in this deal. Is that fair to say? Is that how you read it?
I mean, I'm reading all of this as if AD really wants to be in Atlanta, and the Hawks are like, uh, I'm not seeing the interest on like if I'm Ansi, now that's different from the ownership, but if I'm Ansi, I don't see the value in going after Anthony Davis.
Nope.
We've talked about this a lot. He just makes too much money. I mean, that's just the fundamental issue with Anthony Davis. Makes too much money. Offense has regressed. Not worth like what it's going to cost to get him
Yep.
at this stage in the career. And I'm really out on the idea that we're trading Zaccharie Risacher for Anthony Davis. I'm like I do that. I mean, there are players I trade Zaccharie Risacher for. Anthony Davis is not one of them. Let's put it that way. Like that's not the superstar. That's not the quote unquote superstar you go trade uh, a good prospect. Like for as down as people are on Zach for some reason, the defense is still really good, and like good defenders who are okay on offense are just immensely valuable to NBA teams. They drive winning. They just do. So I'm like, hey, and he's 20. Like I'm not with this, right? This idea that oh the Hawks are disappointed in Zach, they're just willing to no, I don't believe that for a millisecond. I didn't believe that for a millisecond. And and like to me, I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, what's the difference between KP and AD? AD's a better defender, KP's better on offense.
Yep.
But they're the same tier of basketball player. Like
In
and like
terms of like availability.
yeah, and especially in terms of availability. So I'm just like, you're better. The Hawks are better off just riding it out with KP through the season, seeing what they have,
Agreed.
instead of making a deadline deal for Anthony Davis that hasn't shown to stay healthy and also hasn't shown the level of dominance he needs to show on the offensive end to justify his contract right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, I feel like there's no real AD market out there, and there are these like lower in the pecking order reporters that are kind of doing the work of like I don't know this Dallas organization trying to get stuff out there, or AD's agents trying to get stuff out there. We never know where it's coming from. But I like first of all, he's gonna want an extension. I want no part of extension. I want like literally zero part of extension, and I don't see the value of like how much salary you have to send out to make the deal work. You're just gonna gut your rod. I mean. Yeah, it's just I think they shouldn't touch this at all. If I'm there, I don't even think about this for a second. I just
If AD wants to play on a new team, like let the Warriors deal with that.
yeah
That's a Warriors decision. They are an older basketball team who's got to try whatever they can with Steph Curry to make something shake. I think the Warriors, they're a lot of I think the Mavericks are trying to drum up interest for the Hawks, being like, hey, maybe the Hawks will trade for him. Y'all need to do this deal now. And I think the Warriors are like, we're waiting on Giannis. Like that's if you're asking me what's happening right now in the trade market, these teams are waiting on Giannis. And like Anthony Davis is the second banana. And like if I'm the Hawks, I'm like I'm cooling it until the deadline and we'll see what shakes there. But to me, I think a lot of this Mavs understanding like we gotta figure out the market for AD right now, because like we might be left with the bag at the deadline.
yep
And at the same time, like, and we'll have to address this in the future, but like the Hawks are going to have to figure out this trade thing because he's not going to have a market either. Like that's the thing they're going to have to figure out. They're going to have to make this work. No team is going to want to trade for him on the fly. Maybe in an off season where you can get your ducks in a row, but you
yep
can't just stick him in on January 15th and say, "Hey, Trey, make this work." It just doesn't work like that.
agreed.
All right. No, I appreciate you joining me, and I guess we'll say goodnight, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
No problem.